guys, welcome to Sacred Space Yoga with Carol Ann. I'm Carol Ann, of course, but I've invited my great friend Tammy Kunz to come and join us today. So this is your first time in the barn, right?
This is my first time in the barn. What a treat.
What do you think?
I love it.
You do?
I love it.
Cool.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and for those of you who can't see, I call this the cave a lot, and actually it was, at one point, it was my sweet husband's man cave. So that's why it's called the cave, yoga in the cave sometimes. But I tell you what, it's like walking into Cracker Barrel and Applebee's. It's Cracker Barrel and Applebee's on crack. Every single thing in here meant something to him, and he set it up for a party barn. And in the warm months, you know, non-COVID, we have the barn door open, and there's these beautiful red lights and tea lighting everywhere and that kind of thing. And people have so much fun out here. It's not your regular pole barn, by the way.
No.
Not at all. It's carpeted everywhere, and it has a little bathroom. It has a urinal in it for the guys. You know, they don't even have to sit down in that place or lift the lid. They don't have to remember to put it back down because it's right inside here.
Yeah.
But there are things everywhere out here. Sometimes I have some nice candlelight classes out here, things like that. And it's just such a blessing to me. But Tammy, when I first got here, my first reaction when my husband showed me this was like, you're right. Where do you look? You don't know where to look. I know, it's kind of overwhelming a little bit sometimes, but it is absolutely beautiful, and I'm so blessed with it. Coffee bags were part of an industry that he was in at one point, and he has gifts from people from years and years of his life, and he says to me all the time, this is my life that's out here, and so I respect that for him. But he allowed me whenever we first decided to do some stuff out here, when I first moved here, he allowed me to have this, like, well, I shouldn't say allowed, that's not correct, that isn't even right, isn't it allowed? I asked him if I could have some of the space, because you know how we are with our rooms.
Yeah.
Like if I have a room in the house that I want, I don't really want anybody else in there messing with that. So that allowing was a very poor choice of word. He's a very sweet, wonderful guy. But I did kind of wanted to respect the fact that he had this space out here, and wanted to ask, you know, permission-y if I could have a little piece of it.
Yeah.
And so I decided on this one little corner, and I have all these things that are important to me that I got. My mother, something of hers is on the table, and I won't point out specific things, but I have some books, different philosophical and spiritual books, and I read all kinds of stuff back here. I follow not one over the other of any of these. These are just for my own spiritual practice. So I have all kinds of cool stuff here, and I have a little meditation, a stool that I sit at, and that kind of thing. So it's a great space to be able to do it. And the point that I want to make about that is that you can make any place a spiritual place. Any place. Now, if we were in a yoga studio situation, then all of this would be empty. You know what I mean? Like we would be in an empty room, maybe some painting on the walls, maybe a few little things, mats or whatever. But there is a saying that I read one time that if we can't meditate in a boiler room, we can't meditate at all. So I think this is a great way. I even had a friend come in here one time, and she looked around and she goes, "Is your house like this?" I was like, "No, my house is like this." No, but
I love it.
I
honestly, you walk in and the energy just meets you.
It does.
It's a great energy.
It is great energy. I have some beautiful people that come out here, particularly for one of the classes that I talked about. Anyway, we'll move past that a little bit. But today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about beginner classes. Now, Tammy's not a beginner. Do you consider yourself?
I consider myself a beginner. I've been practicing now with you for about a year. I feel like my practice
Take a little over that, because I've been down there almost 2 now.
Okay, maybe. Well,
this summer will be 2, I think. It doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter how long. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's part of the beauty of yoga. I mean, I just find there's constantly a challenge.
Yeah, there is. I've done it 20 years, always challenged by it. It's always challenging. It's ever evolving, ever changing. Yeah. Now, so let me ask this. The first time you ever did a yoga class, was that in a class, or was that for, like, did a video or something like that, or what?
I went to a class years ago, just not very long, because they didn't have, the instructor wasn't there for very long. So it wasn't I didn't practice consistently like I'm doing now with you.
Yeah,
so.
Okay, good. Well, good. Well, Tammy thinks that she's a beginner. I wouldn't really label her as
Compared to her.
Oh, believe it. Yeah. She's not. She is so sweet and so kind, and she's such a great student. Now, one of the things that I've gotten her to do things that, bless her heart, when I've been out of town, I've gotten her to listen to the videos, right, or to the.
I led with the video. I
Yeah.
had your video playing. I led the class. But
It worked great, and I got great compliments on it. So one reason that you are here today is because you're always willing to do stuff. You know, I mean, it's tough getting in front of a camera, and I understand that. You know, but this is weird times, and we do what we can. You know, and again, we're all dealing with COVID. Tammy works from home, so she's very, very safe. You know, I'm very safe, so we feel very comfortable right now because we're part of our herd anyway. You know.
Right.
So, but today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about a beginner class. Now, even though I've said that Tammy isn't a beginner, I don't consider her that. We're going to go through some things that are essential. Now, let me ask this: the first time you went into a class, what were the feelings that you had? The very first class you ever walked into?
Oh, I was completely nervous. Didn't know what to expect because I was used to doing cardio and, you know, like the HIIT classes, boot
Right.
camp, weights, and it's a very, even though it's a form of exercise, I just didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And, and I remember just being immediately frustrated because we quickly got into downward dog, that my heels wouldn't touch the ground.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
Is that because you saw other people's heels touching the ground? This is a great point that she's bringing
And-
up. Yeah.
I thought, something is, mentally what you think should be simple. Even when I started coming with you,
Right.
I still couldn't.
Right.
And that was one of the things as a teacher that you were so gracious about, is pointing out that if you don't have it, that's okay.
That's
Just
okay.
honor
Isn't that
where
one of the
you're
things
at.
I say often?
All the time.
I say it all the time.
Honor where you are.
Honor where you are, and I say all the time, if your heels don't touch the ground, just move them
Mhm.
toward it, because my hamstrings are loose.
Mhm.
So I can have my feet this far from my arms, or that, you know, like
Mhm.
extended, and they still touch. They always touch, but that's not the common thing. The more common thing is the heels to be up. So, you know, sometimes that brings up a good point, because what Tammy looked around and she saw stuff that was pretty traditional yoga class, but she was comparing herself.
Right.
We
Yeah,
don't
and
do that in
no,
yoga.
no,
We
not at all.
don't do that.
And the other hard part initially, but that I feel like I do so much better now, that I'm so appreciative of, is just the mind-body discipline.
Right. Explain
just-
that a little bit.
Well, just, you know, when you work out at the gym, whether it be in a class or with weights or cardio, your body gets all the attention. And I personally feel like your mind is just wherever, running amok. Maybe you're not even consciously thinking, other
Right.
than just what am I doing to my body. Whereas with yoga, just bringing the intention to your practice,
Right,
like through
absolutely.
your breath,
Absolutely.
and feeling the moves physically, but also just the honoring of your body mentally, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it makes sense. You know, what she talks about with the brain, you know, her mind, everybody's mind travels around. So like when we first get into yoga, the traditional way we think of it is the body postures. Because why? Because of Instagram and, you know, things like that, and these, let me tell you people, that is not the norm in a yoga class. That is the norm in a TV televised yoga class, that's the norm in, on Instagram, things like that, but it is not the norm in a class. So we can get nervous sometimes about not knowing what to do, or we'll compare ourselves to other people. Tammy's talked about that she enjoys that mind-body connection, because you have your mind is kind of fluctuating, you know, and that's what yoga is for. If we break everything down into what yoga is for, yoga is not just about the asana. It's just one of the discipline practices. It's not just about how far we can bend or whether we can touch our toes. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the mind. So the whole intent of yoga anyway is to do spiritual practices or physical practices to calm down the mind, for us to just have a better balanced life, of not reacting quite as quickly as maybe we used to, or if we're mentally stressed, to be able to de-stress ourselves from that situation. So we're going to talk about that first. Now, the first thing that what I consider essential for a beginner is for them to learn breathing practices. So we're going to start today in that positioning where we think about meditation. And so we're going to begin with just a good, general, easy meditative breath that everybody can do. And from there, I'm just going to show some essential postures that anybody going into a yoga class can be a little bit more comfortable with. Because how the yoga class goes is going to vary from teacher to teacher, but there are some essential postures that you're going to find in almost every class you ever take. You're probably going to find them or some form of them. So those are the ones we're going to work on. So are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're just going to begin by getting ourselves nice and tall. So Tammy and I are both sitting in what's called a modified hero's pose. If we were in full hero's pose, our feet would be on the outside of the front of our legs, but sometimes that can really hurt people's knees, and we want to be careful. And you do some stuff that we do in a little bit more advanced class for a beginner, and what do? They run out the door. They'll never show up again. They're like, oh my God, I couldn't do that. It was so hard, So beginners, don't feel bad whenever you can't touch your toes or anything like that. Everybody else's beginner is just the same way, except for the random uber flexible girl or guy or whatever. But anyway, so let's go back to the meditation breath. So we're going to sit up nice and tall. We're going to pull our lower belly in toward our spine and kind of up toward the belly button. Roll the shoulders down the back. We're going to sit up very tall. We're going to dip our chin just a little bit toward our chest with our eyes closed. And really what we're looking for, and I'm showing it on Tammy, is for her neck and her spine to kind of be in one level plane. This is a very traditional meditation sitting. And so we're just going to sit here, and the first thing we're going to do is just going to listen to our natural breaths. Just breathe in and out naturally. Don't change anything about the breath or anything that you're doing. Just softly breathe. Simple enough. We do this all the time. Now, with our natural breath, I want you to breathe in and out through the nostrils, just for some breaths here, and I want you to bring a quality to the breath itself. For instance, is the air warm or cool as you inhale and exhale? What do you feel move most in your body on your inhale? Is it the belly that you feel? Is it the chest or the ribs? And I'll ask the same question for the exhale. After we've done a couple of these, go ahead and start to get full inhales through the nose. Full exhale out. You can even open your mouth if you'd like. Inhale. Exhale, open or shut. We'll do one more like that. Now place one hand on the lower belly and one hand on the chest. And just breathe in and out through the nose. Notice the ballooning of the belly, how the ribs spread apart and the chest lifts on those inhales. And notice the chest ascension and the ribs knitting back together and the belly falling on the exhale. This is normal, this is natural, but we get so mentally anxious throughout the day that we don't even notice that we're breathing unless we're having trouble breathing. So these basic breathing techniques are something that we're just bringing attention to. So anytime we feel stressed out through the day, we can just stop and sit in a chair or go hide in the closet or the bathroom if we need to, for Pete's sake. And just put your hand on your chest and a hand on the lower belly and just simply close the eyes and breathe. Feeling the beat of our heart beneath our palm. Feeling that beautiful air travel through our bodies. Basic breath. We're just gonna release our hands back down to our thighs. If you're in an easy seated position, that works really well too. Dip the chin in just a little bit closer toward the chest, and just start to roll the shoulders one direction. And we'll go the other. Come into a nice still position, and we'll open our eyes. How'd you do?
Lovely.
Yeah, you're just lovely. She's such a sweet, sweet person. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And so Tammy, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start looking at the components of a sun salutation, and then just talk about the basic things from there. So you're not gonna probably get this much explanation. It depends on who you go to, of course. I talk too much probably in class, constantly telling them things, so don't always listen to me. But I will say that we're gonna talk through it. In a lot of classes, you may not get as much instruction. Sometimes I'm quieter than other times. It just depends on what the class needs. But we're gonna break this sun salutation down in ways that you can understand it and kind of visualize. You can practice along with this, or you can just sit back and watch on this one, just so you'll kind of know whenever you go. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And so Tammy, I want you, if you will, to go to the front of my mat here. And also I have a couple of blocks up here in the front for her if she needs them. So she is going to put her feet about hip width apart, and I can look underneath her, and she does. She's standing, oh, look how tall. I think she might be taller than me, let me think. Oh my gosh, we're about the same height. I'm 5'8".
I'm probably about 5'8.5".
5'9", there we go. She's got me a little bit. My feet look bigger than hers. Anyway, we're going to stand here. And so Tammy, I want you to, first of all, I want you to notice how she stands. Shift your hips forward a little bit and then push them back. So we don't want to do that. We want to have nice straight hips. We want to have the shoulders back and the chest lifted up, and then the gaze is neutral. So this, if she opens her hands out to the sides a little bit, this is mountain pose. This is a traditional starting practice pose for any position that you might be in. So mountain pose. Now from here, Tammy, I want you to reach your arms up and overhead. Gaze goes toward the thumbs, hands come together. This is called a Urdhva Hastasana. It's a very first posture movement in a sun salutation. So from here, as you exhale, flip the palms and bend the knees and do a forward fold as you bend down. There we go. Bend the knees a little bit because perfectly fine. Now Tammy, if you will, bring your fingertips to the floor. See how tall she is? Oh, good job. Now, what I see right away is she's rocked back a little bit in her heels, so I want you to rock a little toward those front toes. You notice how her hips level out right here. So this is very important, I think. And what happens when she rocks forward just a little bit, the hips are allowed to raise a little bit and the hamstrings are a little bit more released, which is beautiful. So this is a nice forward fold here. Now inhale into a half lift, just really reach the chest forward. Yep, she slid her hands right up. Let the gaze go forward just a little bit. Beautiful. Now Tammy, as you exhale, place the palms on the floor and step back into a plank pose. Now in this plank pose, we're going to look at her. She has a nice stance here. She just like a plank board. Is absolutely beautiful. Her feet are about hip width apart and her hands are about hip width apart and her gaze is down. Now beginner level, we can get to plank, but we can't always get to chaturanga, right? So we are going to do a knees, chest, and shin as she exhales. So just go ahead and put down. This is knees, chest, and shin. Inhale, Tammy, to slide the legs back and the chest up into a cobra pose. Beautiful. See how her gaze is forward, her elbows are in toward her sides, and her gaze is a little bit, her upper spine is nice and straight. Exhale, bend the knees, and lift up and back into a down dog pose. Now this is what she talked about in that beginning where her heels wouldn't touch the ground. Yeah, they were probably up really high by then, about that time. But they're pretty close to the ground. It's not going to be long at all for her heels are all the way on the ground. But I can't tell you enough about how important it is to not worry about whether the heels touch. Some people's will and some people's won't, and it's perfectly fine either direction. She has a really nice down dog here. Now Tammy, I want you to bend your knees just a little bit, and do you feel the length of the spine? Mm-hmm. So in a down dog, our legs don't have to be straight, our knees can be bent. So from this pose, see if you can keep the straightness of the spine and straighten out the legs. Oh, she did it. And look how nice and beautiful her spine is. Her hips are reaching. Gorgeous posture that she has here. Beautiful. Okay, Tammy, I want you to gaze forward and walk as many steps as you'd like up to the front of the mat. So it doesn't matter, when you get up to the front, you have to keep the feet about hip width apart. Inhale into a half lift. Exhale into a forward fold. And now reverse swan dive, reaching the arms out and up. And then bring the hands down to heart center. That was a sun salutation A. So we watched all the different components of the sun salutation A. So now she's going to do it in a flow. I'm not going to talk because she knows exactly what to do. I may talk a little, Tammy, but I want you to, well, maybe I should. Maybe I'll just give the instruction. She's going to use about 1 breath per movement as she flows through a sun salutation A. It's an essential posture in most classes that you'll go to. So, ready, Tams?
Mm-hmm.
Inhale the arms out and up. Exhale, swan dive forward. Knees can be bent a little bit. Hands to the floor. Get forward fold. Inhale into a half lift. Exhale, plant the hands. Step back into plank pose and go through knees, chest, and shin. Beautiful. Inhale, slides up into our cobra pose. Exhale, bend the knees, push up and back into down dog. Beautiful job. Exhale out all that air. Gaze goes forward, and as you inhale, walk to the front of the mat and come into a half lift. Beautiful. Exhale, fold. And reverse swan dive, reach and raise all the way up to the top of the sky. Exhaling, hands down through heart center. Beautiful job. That was absolutely gorgeous. So from here, we're going to move into some of the essential postures. Now, oftentimes, Tammy, what happens? Oftentimes from the salutation, we'll go into the standing postures,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But for this breakdown, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it from just a stepping back situation. So, and then maybe we'll add a little bit if time goes, we'll add into some flow. So just really want to go over some basic postures. So Tammy, step your right leg back into a long, wide stance. And bend into the front knee, square off. Oh, this is a good student. Oh my God, she immediately squared off those hips before I even had a chance to say. Woo, beautiful. So bend into that front knee, front knee, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
And extend that back one, come up on the back toes first. So we're gonna start with a high crescent lunge. This is an essential posture. She is a great model for this because I want you to see how tall and straight her spine is here. She has her hands on her hips. Why do I have people put hands on hips?
To square off.
To square off. Now do it where it's not squared off. Notice how, let them see how the elbows look if your hands are on your hips and you're not square. Like, you know, hands on hips. And if you're not square, what? One elbow is going to be tipping.
Oh.
Yeah, so oftentimes we feel like we're straight, but the elbows themselves will help us to determine if they are or not. They're just an easy visual for us. Okay, now we got this set up. Bend that back knee just a little bit, square off the hips even more, and then straighten that back leg. Reach those arms up into the air. Yeah, beautiful. Now let that gaze go up. High crescent lunge. Isn't that just gorgeous? She's doing a great job. Now, for the sake of our class, just bring your hands on down together and down into the chest for into prayer posture as we go here. Now, because we're already in this posture, we can go ahead and go into warrior one. So spin that back heel. There we go. Warrior one. Sorry. Warrior one. Maybe she is a beginner. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I'm used to watching
Hey,
you,
I
so
know.
there's a lot of
I need to
pressure.
go over there and do that. Beautiful.
Sorry,
so
guys.
she's fine. This is perfect, Tammy. This is exactly what they need to see, you know?
No judgment.
Yeah, no, never in a yoga class. So her back heel is down, and just let's square off the hips just a little bit more. So you might need to move this heel, the toes in. There we go. See how that different that feels?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's our warrior one. It's basically that high crescent lunge, but the back heel is down. Oh, she looks so good. Now let's go into warrior two from this pose. So there we go. Now that back foot's going to open up a little bit more into where the toes come. Sorry, I'm kicking her around here a little bit. Oh my goodness. Now, what happens to this back arm a lot of times? Yours is perfect right now, but what happens to it a lot of times? Yeah, we drop it. So whenever a teacher may say, look at your back arm, Tammy's is great to see. She has this nice, beautiful warrior two posture. Beautiful. Now, where's your gaze? Over the front fingers, right? Now she has these really strong arms here, and this is what we should do in a posture, but we still have to stay kind of flexible and soft. So what can you do in here to soften your pose just a bit, Tammy? Oh yeah, she drifted her fingers a little bit, she relaxed her fingers a little, she pulled her shoulders down a little bit more, keeping the tension away from the neck, she just went right into it. This is also an essential posture, warrior two. So we've talked about crescent lunge, warrior one, and warrior two. So let's continue the sequence. Can we go into a side angle? So you'll take that front arm and place it on your thigh with your knee bent. Now, there we go. Yeah, and maybe the elbow can kind of come down. Like rest your arm on the, there we go,
Okay.
side angle. Oh yeah, beautiful. Oh, and she put her arm right over there. Now sometimes beginners can't do the arm this way without it crunching, so it's perfectly fine to have it straight up in the air. What we've done is, all we've done is go from our warrior two to this side angle pose, and she can rest on it. Now, this is the beginner position where the elbow is on the thigh there. If students have an ability, they can circle the arm down and around, have that arms pointing that way, and the reason I like it from the bottom part is because the collarbone is the only area right here where we have bone on top of muscle. Think about that. All of our bones have muscle sitting on top of them, but we have the bone on top of the muscle. And sometimes this position of straight up to this direction in that pose can cause a little bit of crunching right in through there. I broke my collarbone when I was a kid, so I know what that feels like. So this circling around a little bit makes it a little bit more doable. So come back up through your warrior two. She's probably trembling over here because we're holding these postures very long. Now inhale, straighten that front leg, and as you exhale, shift that front arm over and come through triangle pose. So one hand will go down, the other one up. Beautiful. Now this, I don't think I could have chosen anybody more perfect for this because she is in very beautiful angles throughout her body. This is Trikonasana or triangle pose. It's another essential posture. Now pull the belly strength in, bend the front knee, come up through warrior two. And as you exhale, come through peaceful warrior, dropping the back hand, reaching that front one up. Oh, how pretty is that? Beautiful. Now inhale through warrior two. And as we exhale, pull your belly in, step to the front, bring your hands to heart center. Oh, believe me, she's trembling about now because you're not going to be in a beginner classes where you're going to hold those postures that long. But she did a great job, so give her a little hand. That's what I'm doing here. Now we're going to add this into a little bit of a flow because that's what happens. Does that sound okay, Tam? So inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, swan dive forward, forward fold. Inhale into a half lift. Exhale, fold, plant the hands, step back into a plank, and go through knees, chest, and chin. Inhale, sliding forward into cobra. Exhale, bend the knees up and back into down dog pose. Beautiful. Inhale, reach the right leg up into the air. Exhale, bring it between the hands. Keeping up on the back toes, square off the hips, pull the belly in and rise up into high crescent lunge. Exhale, hold here. Inhale, spin the back heel in, setting up for warrior two, warrior one, excuse me, that's my bad. Warrior one, beautiful. Yep, go ahead and settle in, beautiful. Now you see how it's more difficult on one side for her than the other? Her heel is slightly up and it wasn't on the other side. Let me tell you how common that is. It's because of the hip not moving, it being one tighter than the other, so that's perfectly normal. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. Inhaling here, and as you exhale, open up into warrior two. Beautiful. Inhale, exhale through side angle, front elbow comes down to the thigh, back, there we go, beautiful. Inhale, back up through warrior two pose, and as you exhale, go through peaceful warrior. Backhand drops. Beautiful. Right. That's okay. This is what would happen in beginner class. They wouldn't know unless the teacher told them this is perfect. Inhaling in through warrior two. Exhale, straighten the front leg and reach out and over to the shin and reaching the back arm up into Trikonasana pose. Gaze up toward the sky. Beautiful. Inhale back up through warrior two. So bend that front knee As you exhale, windmill the hands around, coming down through a plank pose. Inhaling, and then exhale, knees, chest, and shin. We do all that on the other side. Inhale to come up through cobra. Exhale, bend the knees up and back into our down dog pose. Gaze goes to the belly. Other sides. Inhale, left leg reaches up to the sky. Exhale through the hand, between the hands. Keep up on the back toes, first one. Keep up back toes, pull the belly in, reach and rise. Coming up through our crescent lunge. Exhale, hold. Inhale, back heel spins back. Keep the hips square to the front. Warrior one. Oh, hips square to the front. Beautiful. Warrior one pose. Inhale. Exhale here. Just to hold it, kind of get settled in. Inhale into warrior two pose. So, oh, there you go. Beautiful. Exhale, hold. Inhale, front elbow or forearm comes down and arm circles around. Exhale, hold here, side angle. Inhaling up through warrior two. Exhale, drop the back hand, reach the front hand up, peaceful warrior. Hold and breathe, exhale. Inhale, arms into warrior two. Exhale, straighten the front leg and reach out and over into our triangle pose. Back arm reaching to the sky. Beautiful. Inhale, bend the front knee, come back up through warrior two. Inhale, pull that belly. There we go. As you exhale, windmill around and go through your vinyasa. You'll hear that a lot in the class, which just means going right back to that plank, knees, chest, and shin down to the floor. Inhale to come up into our cobra and exhale up and back into down dog. Gaze goes toward the belly. Now you hear we talk a lot about a gaze. The gaze is called a drishti. It's a focal point. And so she's going to gaze up either toward her belly as a general rule, but also that if that hurts somebody's neck, do what you got to do for your body. Maybe between the legs is a little bit easier. This is her down dog pose. Now exhale out all that air, Tammy, and then look toward the front of your hands and walk, step, or jump all the way to the front. Inhale into a half lift. Exhale, fold into your forward fold, and inhale, reach the arms out and up, coming into our nice, beautiful lift, and then exhale, hands down through heart center. Beautiful. So we're going to stop with our standing postures, and we're going to hit a few postures on the floor, okay? Okay. So I wanted you guys to kind of see what's generally going to happen in a yoga class. It's just traditional stuff. More advanced classes go on and we add little things into it, you know. Instead of a warrior one, we might do a humble warrior where we reach our hands behind our back, lifting up and coming and folding over, things like that. Warrior two, sometimes we add those, if we're in a warrior two pose, we have our maybe here and we're doing these kind of things, working the core and gazing to the other side, things like that. So that's what happens down the road, but these are essential postures. Then we're going to go to the floor and we're going to look at some essential seated postures. So just go ahead and make your way to a seated, facing the front of the mat there. Beautiful. This is a great one. Easy seated pose. Everybody's going to learn that one, right? So I want you to extend your legs out in front of you and get your butt flesh out of the way. I tell them, get the butt flesh. All God's children got butt flesh. So just pick it up and move it. We want to feel the sits bones. And we want to flex the feet here. So we want to make sure that we have a nice tall stance. Now, Tammy, I want you to sit up nice and tall, roll the shoulder. Perfect, she went right to it. This is Dandasana pose, the staff pose. She's sitting in an L shape, and you're gonna have your gaze go just a little bit like your chin did, just a little bit in. For arms are pressing into the floor. Now, many times what I hear is I hear students say, oh my God, I can't get my arms, I feel like I've got T-Rex arms. It's all good. They somehow get longer the longer you do this. Not really, but they get where you can reach them a little bit better. So she's pressing in here, she has her feet flexed, she has a beautiful posture here. This is very traditional, essential pose. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, Tammy, is move your feet together, keeping your feet flexed. Release the hands, reach the arms out and up. Beautiful. Inhale here, and as we exhale, I want you to lift up toward the ceiling and then fold over the legs wherever you can land your hands. So many times beginners might be where, Tammy, maybe on the shins.
Yes.
If they can't reach their feet, they can just have it on the shins and just kind of forward fold. She can reach her feet here. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. You don't worry about that. So we just kind of fold nice and soft. Now what I want her to do here is I want her to do a half lift. So Tammy, look towards your feet a little bit little half lift and really retract these shoulder blades. Oh my gosh, look how great her spine got straight. Now from there, can you fold forward any amount? Beautiful. A forward fold, easy enough. So inhale just to reach the arms back up toward the sky, right where you started. And exhale the hands down through heart center. And she's in this nice little L shape here. Beautiful. Now I want you to sit, Tammy, where you can face the camera where people at home can see you.
Mm-hmm.
Another traditional posture that we might do is butterfly pose, so Baddha Konasana. Soles, the feet come together. Now, Tammy's got a little bit of tight hip, not terrible, and if her hips were really loose, her knee, oh, they're looser than she thinks they are. Her knees would be probably touching the ground altogether. Mine are very tight. Mine never touch the ground. How about that? Never do they touch the ground. So my hips are extremely tight here. But this is a good common posture, that essential posture that we might see to loosen the hips. So we have two different ways that we can do this type of thing. We can inhale, lift the chest and kind of really get it straight. And as you exhale, keep the spine straight as you bend forward. Now to keep that straight spine. Now see, she can't go down very far, with keeping the spine straight. She's got a nice flat plane here. She's working into those hips in this pose. Now there's another way that we sometimes do it. Tammy, just round everything over and just fold into that pose. Oh, and this is where you can really feel a nice hip opener here in this position. You feel that? Mm-hmm. So this is a butterfly pose or Baddha Konasana. That's pretty traditional and essential class. Now we've got two more things that we're going to look at. So Tammy, go ahead and roll up. And then come into a child's pose where your head faces the front of the mat. This is probably one of the best ones you'll ever learn, is a child's pose. Now, I'm not trying to be funny here, but bigger chested women have a harder time with this. So what do we need to do if we're bigger chested? She and I are not. So sorry, Tammy, I'm sorry to put you in that same category as myself. They widen the knees. So very often, bigger chested women, and they come into that fold, they really can't come into the full fold because they've got those beautiful larger breasts. So, and our smaller ones are just as beautiful, aren't they, Tammy? Mm-hmm. They're just as beautiful. They're just different. So for that reason, and also we might widen our knees if we have some back issues, something like that. This is called child's pose. Oh, anytime in a yoga class, beginners, anytime that you're in a yoga class, please take this posture if you get tired. Don't try to keep up with other people. Judgment, there should not be any judgment in that class. And if you're going to a class that you're getting judgment, you just find yourself another one. It's all good. Now, if you have, this is a really good one to think about too, because if your upper back is really sore, then what you can do, Tammy, is you can take your hands and put them down there by your feet and just doesn't that feel good? Everything rounds over. This is great for back issues. Now, the last essential posture that we're going to talk about is the hardest one that we'll ever do. So, Tammy, I want you to roll up and get set up for Shavasana. Shavasana means corpse pose. The most difficult posture that many people experience is this posture. Why? Because their mind they're like, oh my God, I gotta hurry up, I gotta get to the washing machine. Oh, my kids are gonna, all the stuff that goes on. So the most important posture is this asana pose. Now in this one, we have some options. If you're in a class to where you feel this is not good for your lower back, because see, if you have lower back issues, laying out straight like this is not going to work very well for you. So bend your knees, but soles your feet on the floor. If you're in a position in a class where your lower back hurts, then this can be your Shavasana. The hands are just resting by their sides, and you can have your legs out or in, whatever feels better, Tammy, for you. And from there, I want you to flip the palms open and just let the arms relax by the side. Close your eyes and just breathe naturally. Now, Shavasana is hard because we do very often try to think about all the things that we have left to do for the day. Well, this is your rest. In most classes, 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to be in this posture. So one thing that I tell students to do, whatever thought comes, don't fight it. Accept it, let it go. So I like to think of, I had the cutest little grandson, Caleb, and he and I, when he was a little bit littler, he's 11 now, but when he was a little bit smaller, we would lay on the grass in the summertime and we'd look at the clouds that we would go by, and of course we'd be looking for shapes or animals. So sometimes I use this analogy, whatever thought comes up in this particular posture, imagine it sitting on a cloud and floating away. And what happens? Another one comes up right behind it. So my personal friend of mine who I consider my guru, he always says that thoughts, they come one after another. And it's absolutely true, but the most important thing he says is the quicker that we get over them and let them go, the happier we're gonna be, and I love that analogy. So from this pose, we'll start to kind of wake up a little bit, so maybe wiggling the fingers around a little bit, maybe a full body stretch, because those feel so good after a yoga class. Maybe bring the knees in toward the chest, kind of rock a little from side to side. And then you'll roll to one side or the other and come up into an easy seated position. I'm gonna join her on the mat, she won't care. So Tammy, tell me about the class. What did you think about that?
Just now, this
Mhm.
time?
Yeah.
Just a sense of peace just overcomes you.
There you go, a sense of peace.
Yeah, and usually when we do your class, your full class, we start with our intention
Yes,
for the class.
Perfect.
And I love that we end with our palms coming together in Namaste.
Ujjayi, yep, Ujjayi Mudra, yep, absolutely.
And it just, you're again bringing it back to the heart.
That is awesome. So guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we have another person coming in a minute. You're gonna meet her another day. But anyway, thank you, Tammy, so much for coming in and filming this for me. It was just absolutely beautiful. So thank you. Namaste, guys.
Namaste.